on one of my recipe tests for this, I had finished it and I was like, why do the biscuits look so weird? Like they just don't look right. And then I realized that I had completely forgotten to add any butter to the biscuits. Yeah, I was like, oh God. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Recipe Drop. I'm Mia, and today I'm going to show you how to make a blueberry grunt with corn biscuits and a salted honey butter glaze. It sounds kind of weird, but it's pretty much like a blueberry cobbler, and if you've heard of a blueberry slump, a blueberry grunt is most similar to that. The blueberry compote part is cooked on the stovetop, and then the biscuits get baked in the oven. It's probably my new favorite summer dessert recipe. So let's get started with making the blueberry compote. So here I have a 10-inch stainless steel skillet saute pan, and I'm gonna add 6 cups of fresh blueberries. It does work with frozen blueberries too, I did test that. I'm also gonna add half a cup of granulated white sugar, and I haven't turned the heat on yet. Then to add a little bit of citrusy flavor, I'm gonna zest in all the zest from 1 lemon. So if you have no idea what a grunt is, you are not alone. It's pretty much like a cobbler, except for the main difference is that a grunt is made on the stovetop and a cobbler is made in the oven. I know I did mention that I'm gonna be putting it in the oven too, so I'm doing a little half and half. But I think it just makes it really fun and easy being able to cook kind of like the blueberry part on the stovetop. And I always appreciate a recipe that uses a pot or a skillet. So now I just juiced in about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, which is usually half a lemon. I'm also gonna add just 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, so like a pinch. Now I'm gonna stir this together until everything is evenly combined and the blueberries are all coated in sugar. All right, so now I'm gonna turn the heat on to medium-high. And I'm also gonna add 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter that's gonna melt really nicely into this blueberry compote. I'm gonna let this come to a boil, and then I'm gonna simmer it for about 15 to 20 minutes, stirring occasionally. So I'm actually choosing to do kind of a hybrid version of a grunt and a cobbler today, and that is because usually with a grunt, you add the biscuits on top and then you add the lid, so it kind of makes the dough steam in a way. So think about when you've had chicken and dumplings. The dumplings are a little bit more like doughy and cakey, but I really love that kind of crispy, crumbly exterior that biscuits in the oven have. That's why I'm cooking the blueberries on the stovetop, and then once I've added the biscuits, I'm gonna pop it in the oven. So I'm gonna make the biscuit dough in this cane mixing bowl. It's by Mason Cash, and it's made out of stoneware, and they come in a few different sizes and also shapes. There's one with like a little spout and a handle, which is really cute, and I really like these because they're nice enough to just keep out on the counter or put on a shelf or whatever. I just think they're really pretty, and they're also really lightweight, which like they kind of look heavy, right? To make the corn dumplings, I am gonna puree together a cup of corn kernels, and then I have 1 cup of buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk, you can mix together 1 cup of whole milk and then a teaspoon of lemon juice. The acid helps to just kind of like curdle the milk a little bit, and it's pretty much like the same as if you were to use regular buttermilk. So you can see this is starting to boil a little bit, and I'm just going in and giving it a nice little stir just to make sure that everything is cooking evenly. So because I want some obvious pieces of corn in the corn biscuits, I'm not gonna puree it until it's super smooth. I'm gonna puree it until the corn has been mostly mixed into the buttermilk, but you still have some corn pieces. My personal favorite is an immersion blender because it's just so easy and you can use it with any bowl. That looks good. Knowing me, I would go mix it until it's too smooth. So here you can see it's, pretty blended into the buttermilk, but there's still some obvious pieces of corn. I love getting the pieces of corn in the biscuits, and I also love seeing them. I think it adds a really nice color. And just, I don't know, it's pretty. This is bubbling. I'm gonna reduce this to medium-low, just so that all of the liquid doesn't evaporate. So to this bowl, I'm gonna add 2 cups of all-purpose flour, or 240 grams. I have half a teaspoon of baking powder. Baking soda, did I just say baking powder? I have half a teaspoon of baking powder. I meant baking soda. However, here I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And I'm gonna be adding unsalted butter, so I'm gonna add half teaspoon of kosher salt to balance it out. So I'm just gonna mix this together before I add in the butter. So very important that you're starting off here with cold butter. Because this is a classic biscuit, you're gonna do that thing where you mix cold butter pieces into the flour. And this is gonna help to give the biscuits a really buttery and flaky texture. And this is 6 tablespoons, by the way. I'm gonna break them apart into the flour. So with biscuit dough, pie doughs, anything that requires you to press the butter into the flour before adding any other ingredients, that's because fat prevents any gluten formation, which is gonna prevent the dough from being like, you know, too stretchy or too glutinous, which is what you would want if you're making like a pastry or a bread or something like that. But when you're making something that you want to be flaky and buttery, you want to prevent any of that like stretchy glutinous formation. So now I'm pressing the butter pieces into the flour, and it's important that you do this kind of quickly because you don't want the butter to melt. I'm gonna give this a stir. It looks almost done. Corn and blueberries are such a good flavor combination. Do you like corn ice cream?
I love corn ice cream.
It's so good. I had it for the first time last year and I was like blown away. Okay, so this is almost done, so I'm gonna finish off the biscuit batter. Now I'm just gonna pour in the buttermilk and the corn mixture. You guys remember last year when that really trendy song was all over TikTok? It's corn.
It's cold. A big corn knobs. It has the juice.
I've had that song kind of stuck in my head the last few days when I've been making corn recipes.
I can tell you all about it.
All right, so I'm not gonna overmix by any means. I'm just using a spatula here to combine all the flour and the corn and the buttermilk until everything is mixed in and we have a nice even batter. And the thing that I really like about this type of biscuit is it doesn't require you to have to put it on the counter and do folds and roll it out and everything. It's literally, I was telling my mom, it's kind of just like a pancake batter. You just mix everything on a bowl and then you dollop it on top. I'm gonna turn the heat off, and I actually have an oven in the back preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I'm just gonna take spoonfuls like this and just place them all over the blueberry compote. And I like to start off smaller because I like to have the whole thing covered. And if you do really big ones, then you might not be able to cover the whole thing. So as I was saying before, a classical grunt or a slump is usually fully made on the stovetop. So if you wanted to make it the very traditional way, then you would keep the stovetop on and you would just cover this with a lid and you would almost steam the dumplings. Instead, what I'm gonna do, because I like that really crispy and crumbly exterior, is I'm gonna pop this in the oven and they're gonna get really nice and golden brown and taste more like a classic traditional biscuit. So now I've covered the whole surface. I'm gonna go in with the rest of the dough and just fill in any spots or add more dough to any biscuits that look small. In the end, it's gonna look really delicious because the blueberries are gonna bubble up and kind of cover some of the sides. Okay, so I'm gonna transfer this to the oven and it's gonna bake for about 40 to 50 minutes until the biscuits are fully cooked through and they're nice and golden brown on top. So let's head to the oven. This looks so good. It's not even baked and it already looks pretty. So the Grunt has about 5 minutes left in the oven, and while it finished baking, I'm gonna make some honey butter that we're gonna brush on top. And I'm using our Dansk butter warmer. This is one of my favorite things that we carry in the shop actually. I have one at home. I use it to make oatmeal, I use it to make hot chocolate, I use it to make faux milk. What I really like about it is it has a little spout on the front, and then it has a really comfortable wooden handle that doesn't get hot, obviously. So I have 4 tablespoons of honey, and I'm gonna add 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. All right, so I'm also gonna add just a pinch of salt to the honey butter because we want it to be really nice and salted, and then I'm also gonna add some flaky salt later too. I had honey butter for the first time a few weeks ago at a restaurant in Burlington, Vermont, and it was so delicious. So when we were developing this recipe, and it was blueberries and corn biscuits, we thought that honey butter would make a really yummy addition to it. So I brushed some of it on top of the biscuits, and then I actually served the rest on the side for drizzling over, which is really nice because then every person can decide how much they want on their own serving. All right, Grunt is done. Look how delicious that looks. All right, so now I'm just gonna go in and brush this all over the tops of the biscuits. Not only is this gonna add a really nice flavor, it also just adds a really pretty shine. Not only are butter warmers good for melting butter, they're also good for storing flaky sea salt, like this. All right, I'm gonna sprinkle a generous amount of flaky sea salt on top. Flaky sea salt is like probably one of my favorite ingredients, I'm not gonna lie. So before I dig into this, I actually wanna make a note about the pan I use. I tested this recipe with a cast iron skillet, and I made the mistake of doing that because cast iron skillets, sometimes when you cook anything acidic in them, can lead to a really metallic and irony flavor. And that's what happened when I made this the first time with lemon juice. It gave the blueberries a really metallic flavor and actually turned my teeth really blue. All right, let's dig in. So good. Wow. So I'm gonna get a sizable biscuit. I'm gonna add some more blueberries around. I'm gonna pour some more honey butter on top. And usually I like to serve this with a little bit of vanilla ice cream. You can also serve it with whipped cream. So good. This tastes like summer to me. I love the texture of the biscuits. I love the little pieces of corn that you get in. And I absolutely love the salted honey butter. It might be my favorite part. If you want to make this recipe, you can find it linked below in the description. Like, comment, and subscribe. You can find me on Instagram at Nia_Aronson. If you make this, please send me a photo. Let me know what you think of it. I would love to hear, and I'll see you in the next video.